laps around one of the most majestic, the fifth season of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series sees drivers head over to circuit the Spa-Francorchamps for 44 laps of pure adrenaline racing. You've got new drivers, old drivers, and of course you have Gregor Hutu, a 3-time champion, and Hugo Louise, a 1-time champion, both each looking to add an additional trophy to their racing cabinet. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Will Vincent along with Nick Rowland here on iRacing Live and PSRTV as we are less than 5 minutes away from the start of the 2014 campaign. And Nick, 35 drivers have made the field here today. We'll start with 2 drivers who didn't make the cut. Ben Cornett, Jonas Nakurian, both struggled in qualifying. They are not racing today.
Yeah, 2 big drivers to drop out, but this is fantastic to be joining you, Will, in the commentary box for the first round of the World Championship here around the beautiful Spa-Francorchamps circuit. It's a nice day here as well, but it's Gregor Hutu, as you said, that's the man to beat this season once again, and he's also the man on pole position.
He is on pole position in that #1 Team Redline car. He's got his teammate, Enzo Benito, who will be starting alongside him in that first row. Hugo Louise will be starting in the 3rd position, Alexei Yusiakola in 4th, and Jake Sturgios will round out your top 5. There is one driver who won't be racing here today, and that is Atty Kirchhoff. And I tell you what, actually, Nick, I'm just seeing it on my screen right now. A couple of drivers are just doing some simulated race start. You see them as they come to the start-finish line, just slow down, coast to about 2-3 miles an hour, then drop that clutch. The start here at Spa is so important because it's a short run down to the last source hairpin.
Absolutely critical going into turn 1. Last source is so tight and tricky. You get drivers coming in from wide angles, narrow angle, and will try to capitalise as much as they possibly can before they run up towards Eau Rouge and Radion. And of course, it's all about downforce, or low downforce, down towards Alecom along the Kemmel Straight.
You saw the prize fund up on your screen just a moment ago, and that's one of the things about this as well, Nick. This is one of the highest paid series in all of sim racing, and these drivers, the winner, competing for over $10,000 and a trophy after all is said and done. So a lot of prize money at stake here through the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, huge prize, massive prize once again, and these drivers going for that top $10,000 prize. It's Gregor Hutu, the man that they've all got to try and take it off though, and Enzo Benito's certainly done a good job at trying against Gregor Hutu. He's only like half a tenth off in qualifying, but it's going to be very close with some of these drivers, and it's a shame that Atsy's not here, but when he rejoins us, I'm sure he's going to be fighting towards the front again.
Indeed, it did look as though it was a complete Team Redline lockout out from. We are less than 15 seconds away from the end of practice, and then the cars will head themselves down to the racing grid. Track conditions right now, it is 67 degrees, so it is cool outside today. We have a southwesterly wind of 6 miles an hour, and relative humidity is 57%. But a beautiful day in the Ardennes Mountains of Belgium, that is Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. And to run through your starting grid, Gregor Hutu on pole position. Enzo Benito will line up alongside him on row 1 of the grid, less than 2/100ths of a second back. Hugo Louise and Alexia Loma will be in row 2, sorry, Alexia Yusiakola. Row 3, Jake Sturgios and Isaac Price. Row 4, Marta Patila, Alex Simpson. Row 5, Oli Picala, Tommy Nilsson. Row 6, Hudona Marumi and Mogar Philo. Row 7, Martin Kronke and Yuhu Abe. And then row 8, Yoni Tamala, Kazuki Ushimima. Rest of the qualifying times up on your screen momentarily. Nick, who's going to win today?
It's a very close one to call. Gregor Hutu, Benito and Louis have all set at 44.6, so they're very impressive in qualifying. Let's see if they can actually translate that now into race conditions. You got to think Yakola and Sturgios will be close as well.
Kazuki in that number 43 car will be starting this race on pit road. That is your breaking news as we get set to go racing. Cars are lined up on the grid. It will be the 5th season of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series getting ready to go. Green any moment now. Will Hutu be able to take victory? Will it be Benito? As we are underway for the 2014 campaign, they all come down into turn one for the first time. But I tell you what, Hutu was slow off the line, and that allowed Benito to have a look alongside him. But then Hugo Luis gets a perfect jump, and they're going to be side by side as they run down into Air Rouge for the first time. Will they be able to get the job done? Enzo Benito just keeps that position.
Yeah, but Luis lost out though because UC Yakola has got a great run out to the top of Radion going down the Kemmel Straight. He's on the outside on the approach to Lecom. He's got this slipstreamer as well of Louis in front of him. He's going to go to the outside and try and break all. Oh, he's breaked way too deep. He's going to go off. Yakola's off. His teammate goes past and spins. Oh, he's gone round.
And there's a little bit of rear wing
past him now. Let's hope no one hits him. Oh, he has. He's been collected. That's a massive wreck. Yakola had a great run down the outside, but it wasn't enough to go around the outside.
That is one of the worst places to spin your car, down there at the Lacombe section of the racetrack. And he just broke so late there. And there was one car who just got a little bit of contact with him. I think that was Jason Lover at the initial spin. But then it was just a huge plowing into the air. All the drivers swarmed to avoid him. And it was indeed Jason Lover who sent him flying up into the air. And he is out of the race. Jason Lover has got some front wing damage, and he's falling well down the field right now. Out front, it is Gregor Hutu pulling out a commanding lead right now over Enzo Benito. In fact, that is about almost a second and a half on the racetrack. Hugo Luis further 1.2 seconds back, and then it will be Jake Sturgios now up into the fourth position. Now, Sturgios on that run down into Lacombe was actually trying to make it 3 wide there, Nick. Didn't get the chance to do it, but Sturgios does look mighty fast in the early going of this race.
Sturgios got one slippy rear wing. He was so fast through Blanchimont and catching Louis then as well. He's cruised up to the back of him. That NX Racing car is flying along at the moment. And he's got a great run out of turn one, out of last source. And let's see if he can get any closer going through Eau Rouge now. But I don't think he's going to be able to. He's getting close. Can he get into the slipstream? He's quite far back, but look at how quick he's closing on him.
He might just be a little bit too far back this time around. Of course, the iNX Racing cars are traditionally the fastest in a straight line. We had a couple of people come onto pit road. Jason Lovett is coming for a new front wing, and also Robin Friskops is on pit road and back out onto the racetrack. He will go right now. So 2 drivers, early pit stops from them. That really is going to hurt their strategy. The times at the completion of lap number 1. Hutu, 1.3 second gap to Enzo Benito. Hugo Luis, a further 1.2 seconds back. Jake Sturgios in 4th. Martin Tila in 5th. Isaac Price in 6th. Tommy Nielsen in 7th. Ollie Picard 8th. Martin Conte 9th. And Yudan Arumi rounds out your top 10. Now, it was a clean start there, Nick. However, it all went wrong when you had Yakola come down on the outside, brake late, got himself then onto the curb. That's when he spun the car. And it's that sort of thing. First round of the championship. Oh, Nuno Marumi spins out of the race there. That was down at Stavolo. Stavolo won. I was just looking at him. He got himself onto that curb, and Stavolo won and just lost the car there. You've got those metal drains, and he has got that car running back again. No, he's not. He's out of the race, and that is going to be a big loss there for Narumi.
Huge run there in the process as well. Hugo Louis up front is starting to close in as well on Enzo Benito. He's really started to pull away now from Sturgios, and he's getting ever closer to the back of Enzo Benito. So Hugo Louis is starting to come forwards, but it's Hutu that's really starting to pull away at the front.
He had 2 seconds. It is now the gap between Benito and Hutu on the racetrack, and Hugo Luis really is closing in down the Kemmel Straight as they come down into Lacombe once again. Now, he was able to close up about 4, maybe 5 car lengths there on the run down to Lacombe in the draft, and also he has been able to break away now from Jake Sturgios. But for Luis, if he is about 4 car lengths back, he will be close enough to make a move on the next lap. It's now this critical midfield section where he's got to keep within about half a second, I think, of Benito.
Yeah, Hugo's going to try and close, but he's going to start getting the dirty air through this section of the track as he goes, comes through Pouon towards Fagna and Stavolo, but he's definitely struggling in the dirty air now. He's got to get close enough out of here to see if he can get a run through Blanchimont.
Yeah, this could be the opportunity for Luis, and of course, we will see whether he can get that run down. And this is going to be critically important for Luis as well, because right now, he is 2.6 seconds back after 3 laps of racing from the guy who took the championship away from him last year. And let's not forget, last year, it started off as a tete-a-tete between Hutu and Luis, both winning 2 of the first 4 rounds of the championship. So it is critically important for Luis right now, if he wants to get his championship charge into gear, to get past Benito and then set his sights on Hutu. But at last lap, they were a lot slower than Hutu. Hutu did himself a 1 minute 47.134. Benito a 1:47.9. The same for Hugo Luis. He has got to get past Benito quickly, because I think he's starting to hold him up in that dirty air. This could be the opportunity, because he gets a very good run out of Rodillo, and he'll now work himself through the king down the straightaway. He is much closer. Will he try and set himself up to the right hand side to make a pass? Not quite close enough there. Behind them then, side by side, you had Tommy Nilsson and Ali Picard. Picard is trying to get himself past Tommy Nilsson. Good racing within the top 10, because you've got Isaac Price also all over the rear on Martin Patillo right now in that 3ID racing car. So a good battles, 2-car battles all the way through the top 10 right now.
Yeah, Jake Sturgis kind of just gone into a bit of a no man's land as well. He actually did a 48.0, so he held station to the drivers in front, but you've got to believe that at the moment that Hugo Luis, the man that's got the faster car of the 3 drivers, but he just cannot negotiate the car of Enzo Benito. Benito's making a few little mistakes as well. He's run over curbs quite a lot, getting himself a little bit wide, so he's starting to make a few errors, and I think that's because that car behind him of Hugo Luis is getting ever bigger.
Okay, we're going to have a look back at the start of this race. Now, it was actually Hutu who got a sluggish start off the line. Benito got an absolute blinder at the start of this race, and he was able to pull alongside Hutu. It was in that second phase of the start he really got the jump, and then it just seemed to be as though he took a wide apex into the corner, and that allowed Hugo Luis to run alongside him, but pretty clean all the way through the field. Does seem to be like 1 or 2 cars run a little bit wide. I did see Stephen Michaels running very wide there down at La Source, but especially that first corner, it did seem to be everyone got through okay, Nick.
Just about. It was the real issue came up towards Le Comre, and as we saw, but incredible pace we're seeing now towards the front of this race, because Benito and Sturgis did a 47.7, but it was Louis, the slower man, on a 47.9. But he's just had a great run through Eau Rouge and going up the Kemmel Straight, and he's closed in again on Enzo Benito. But Benito looks a little bit inconsistent, again running very wide over curbing, and it's allowing Louis to come back at him.
Ali Picardo, by the way, has just been able to get himself past Tommy Nilsson, so move Picardo up into the 7th position on the racetrack, and a good start to his championship campaign. His first race in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series for that number 27 car, and he's looking blinding right now, is Oli Picardo. And he was able to get past Tommy Nilsson with ease on that run down to Lecombe. Does seem to be the draft is very strong on that run, and that kind of comes down to the wind here as well, because you're getting a huge tailwind as you come out of Rodillo and work yourself down into the Kemmel straightaway.
You certainly do, coming on to that Kemmel straight. If you get a good run at the top of the hill over Radion and you get over that curb fairly safely, then it makes a huge difference. But Louis has fallen back again from Benito this time, and Benito is just starting to romp away a little bit here. But let's see what Sturgis is doing. See, Sturgis is getting quicker. He starts to close on Louis again, so we're going to have a great 3-car battle over second place, I think, soon. And to be fair, Martin Piatella is not that far behind either.
Last lap, it was a 1 minute 47.4 for Enzo Benito, so he has started to pick up the pace, although he did get very close actually there to the inside wall. He uses a lot of that curve down at the La Source hairpin. Hugo Luis's last lap was a 1:47.7, and Jake Sturgis did a 1 minute 47.6. So Sturgis
but look at Hutu.
Is closing
look
up
at
a
Hutu,
bit.
46.8. Incredible pace at front from Hutu. Unbelievable lap time, 46.8. The next person on 47.4. These guys are really going to have to up the ante, because at the moment Hutu's checking out.
Of course, there could be a little bit of strategy in play here, but there is a reason why Gregor Hutu is known as the world's fastest alien. Isaac Price has been able to get himself past Martin Patilis and move him now up into that 5th position. Price has had a storming start to this race in that number 36 car. Again, his first race in the WCS, and it does look as though he is driving the race of his life right now.
Great qualifying from him as well.
Amazing qualifying for him. We've got David Court, who was in there right now, and he is part of a huge gaggle of cars. You have Andrei Borcher, Mogar Philo, Simon Patel, Tamo Evening, David Court, and then Alexia Loma. They are all running within about half a second of each other. And we're into that stage of the race now, Nick. Lap 6, everything's calmed down a little bit, where you've just got to, keep that momentum going and hope the driver in front makes a mistake, because passing can become more difficult. Now we're into the middle part of that first stint.
Most definitely, this is where it gets very, very difficult, and drivers really have to concentrate as well, especially on the run out of Stavolo and coming down through Blanchimont, etc. as well. The car will close fast, and it's all about the braking zone if you are going to look to make an overtake. But I think the drivers are just starting to settle themselves here. Hutu at the front is just doing an incredible job at the moment, with Louis that's still quite a way back, and he's not really made any sort of impression on Enzo Benito, who seems to have calmed himself for those first few laps, and is now putting in some great lap times. 47.4 that last time round for Benito.
And let's not forget, this is Benito's first race in the illustrious Team Redline team. And you've got to say, there's got to be a lot of pressure on him moving up the ranks into arguably one of the hottest seats in all the sim racing. You're going to have some nerves. And Benito, he's been very good in other cars, GT cars especially, but in these open wheel WCS cars, he hasn't run up front that much. And, you've got a former world champion behind you in Hugo Luis. That pressure is going to be on you.
Pressure's going to be on. You've got a champion in front of you, champion behind you, in the middle. It's a great sandwich to be a part of, but Benito is pushing. He had a bit of a moment, actually, on the entry of Pouon there. The nose would go in, and it looked like it oversteered momentarily. He got it back under control and sorted out. But, yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough race for Enzo Benito, but shown his worth at the moment after 7 laps.
Yeah, so 7 laps of this race are complete. To give you an update, by the way, on retirees, Alexei Usiakola is out of the race, as is Stephen Michaels, Yunan Rumi, and Jorn Jens. We are looking at Simon Patel right now, who's in the 14th position. And Patel does look as though he has got a lot of speed in that car. Just can't get past Mogar Philo. This could be an opportunity, though, because he got a great run out of Stavolo, and this will give him momentum all the way down this long, sweeping left-hander as they run down to the bus stop chicane. But, Philo getting a little bit of a wiggle there, actually, and that will upset his car as they come down into the bus stop chicane. You can pass there, Nick, but it's a lot more difficult than the Coombe, because you really can't go side by side for that section of the racetrack leading up to it.
Yeah, it looks like Kittel lost a lot of downforce going through there as well, and he was not able to hold enough on the entry to bus stop. Even though Philo made that mistake, Kittel was not able to capitalise in any sort of way, and he fell backwards a little bit now, if anything, and got a bit of oversteer out of bus stop as well before the start-finish line. So it's a bit of a moment there for Kittel, but it's good to see Tom Kittel actually racing. I raced against him myself, and it looks like he's really strong in 14th at the moment, and trying to fight his way further up.
Yeah, and there are a couple of drivers that I am thinking are having some tough days. Stephen Michaels, of course, he had a great season last year. He is very unhappy about the fact that he only completed 1 lap of racing. He was involved in one of those incidents at the start of this race down at Lacombe. He will be very upset about the fact that that Twister Racing car will not be placing any higher in this race. Last lap time, by the way, for Hutu, a 1 minute 46.643. That is his fastest lap of the race. But look at the consistency as well. In Hutu's last 2 laps, Nick, 2/100ths of a second separating his lap times on a track that's over 4 miles in length.
Tremendous consistency. That this is what Gregor Hutu prides himself on, and why he's winning world championships. So the way he is, the consistency of the guy is absolutely phenomenal. Really is good. I think Oli Bacala looking like he's got a pass lined up here as well.
Yeah, he tried to make the move down into the bus stop chicane, not quite close enough. In fact, we'll stay with him for just a moment, because he might get a good run. If he can get a good run out of La Source, that will really set him up for that run down into the Coupe. And that's the thing, you start the pass here in La Source, Nick, because you need to get a good run out of this corner to carry your momentum all the way down and up the hill. But the issue is that you've got to time it in some ways. And Timo Evenen, he has just spun his car, and he's now going to be passed by Davide de Corps, potentially. No, he's not. But Jorni Kumala just lost the position there to Davide de Corps in the melee. Timo Evenen, will see what happened to him in that iRacing car. And it was down at the bus stop chicane, just getting himself tagged, actually. Yeah, he got himself tagged by Davide de Corps, and that allowed Alexia Loma to go past all the way off the racetrack. And bad luck there for Timo Evenen. And to give you the update on Ollie Picard, he wasn't able, Nick, to get the job done there over Martin Taylor.
No, he wasn't able to get the job done, but again, they're getting close. They just can't find that extra little edge to send them by. So clearly the dirty air effect and the downforce loss is quite a lot around here. And even though they've probably gone varying downforce levels to high to low downforce, depending on where you want the speed, it's not making enough of a difference, because going through Blanchimont, drivers are having to lift a little bit too much, and even if you're making a mistake, you're getting away with it.
Yep, and that is one of the things as well. You've got to keep your head clean. And if you're the car that's leading the group, you really have got to keep your head clean, just because a mistake can be so horrible for you, losing so many positions. And we've seen it before in this series that, you know, one mistake can lose someone 8, 9, 10 positions on the racetrack. The gaps right now is Hutu to Benito is 6.7
Will,
seconds
we might have another
racetrack.
battle on here, because Picala's got close to Pietro again, just in front of him. He's very, very close out of the bus stop. I don't think he's got the run towards last source. But this time, can he get enough of the nose in and get a good drive? He has got a good drive. Pietro's got a solid exit from there, though. It looks like he's in the slipstream, though. It depends how close he can stay through Eau Rouge and Radion. He's getting close to him through Eau Rouge, and he's going to stick with him all the way down. Look at that run for Picala. That's beautiful. He's going to get a run all the way down the Kemmel Straight, down towards Lecombe. He's getting closer and closer and closer, right at the very end. Can he brake later, though? He's going up the inside. Not quite. So close. He just needs a little bit more of a car alongside Piatella, and he'll have that job done.
Yeah, he was very close. But at the same time, Nick, that outside line can hold its own. And we have seen a number of drivers, rather than move their car to the right-hand side of the racetrack, do that one defensive move and force the guy to go round them on the outside. Actually, on that outside, you can brake a little bit later and still attack the corner. And I think Martin Patel just did that perfectly there in that number 8 car, holding off Ali Picard for yet another lap. And I think that these two drivers right now, the fact they're battling is actually allowing Isaac Price to get away just a little bit. And I think that'll be a bit of a relief to Isaac Price, because at one point he had Patila, Picard and Nilsson pretty much on his tail.
Yeah, it's allowing him to pull away, and Picard's actually lost time now a little bit. He's pushing hard. You can tell he's really pushing hard. Lost a little bit of time. Closing again. Looks like he's got less downforce. He's close through Blanchimont. So the straight line speed is with Picard. It's just a question of can he get close enough out of La Source and hold it through Eau Rouge. Again, into bus stop. He's much more confident under braking as well. Much more confident. Gets the nose tighter in. Gets a nice exit. But Picard is looking threatening. It's just a question of can he get close enough through Eau Rouge.
That is the question that will go on for the next couple of laps. And we are at that point now, we're at about 1/4 race distance, that people will start thinking about strategy as well. Now, we expect most of these drivers to go about 24, 25 laps into this 44-lap event. However, if you are on the alternate strategy, then you'll likely come in somewhere around the region of lap 15 to lap 16 if you're on a 2-stopper. Now, a 2-stopper can be quicker here, Nick. However, you've really got to be in clean air the entire race, and arguably the only driver that can get away with 2-stopper right now will be that number 1 car, Gregor Houghton.
Well, when you're busting out 46.2s for fun currently, it looks like he can get away with it, because the guys behind him have only done a 47.0. Both Benito and Louis both did 47.046 and 47.072. That's a massive advantage, and he's just not got enough. And he's got enough that he can do what he wants at this point.
Just to let you know, Timo Evenen just lost the position there to David Corbis. Now, these two actually came together, of course, down at the bus stop chicane a couple of laps ago, which is the reason why they both fell down the running order a little bit. There is a little bit of damage also to Timo Evenen's car when he got tagged and spun around. Now, David Corbis has been able to get past him. Down outside the top 20 as well, there has been some battles between Jeremy Bouteloup and Paul Ilbrink and Michel Chesney. And it does look as though that out of all of those drivers right now, the one who's gaining the most is Paul Ilbrink. He's just been able to get himself way up through the field. And Matty Zega having a good recovery drive as well in the Orion racing car after starting in the 34th position. Making up 10 spots early in the race, you've got to say, is still good, even though you're running outside the top 20 net.
So it's still solid running, you know, and it's impressive to see what they're able to do even lower down through the field. And this is where strategy will pay out also. These guys at the front, though, Hutu actually just stabilised, whereas the guys behind Benito and Louis improved to a point 46.6 for Benito, and also Louis on a 46.8.
So Hugo Louis, they have kind of stabilised a little bit, but again, one lap. And we're going to just take away from that in a moment, because we have got a side-by-side battle. You see it up on your screen. And will the job be able to get done? I don't quite think, though. It's crazy, because this side-by-side action, in fact, Simon Cattell and Mo Garfila, they're going side-by-side as well. But you see, Cattell was just able to breeze past Philo, yet other drivers really are struggling to suck up to that dirty air. And it does come back down to the downforce levels that you run. You talked about this with me a little bit earlier on in the pre-race, and some drivers, if they run that lower downforce, they'll be a lot faster, Nick, on the first section and the last section on the racetrack. But you can't get past the driver. You're struggling all the way through this tight, difficult midfield section, which really does rely on both mechanical and aero grip.
You're absolutely right, but that, from what Cattell just did up at Lecombe, was very impressive. Drove right the way round the outside. That was an absolutely beautiful move that Simon Cattell just pulled off. And he's now in 14th. He's going to try and close up to the guys up front, which is let's see, it's Andre Butcher now. So he's actually up to 13th. Sorry, signed correctly. That was a position for 13th over Philo.
Yep, and of course, many people will know who are long-term viewers of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. They jokingly say that there's the magic Inex gear, mainly because, as I said earlier on, Inex have always traditionally been the fastest cars in a straight line. When we go down to tracks like Indianapolis, you will really see that along that huge front straightaway. Oli Picard and Martin Taylor, that one is still going on the racetrack. And we need to talk very quickly. We've got to think about Oli Picard just a little bit, because he has got the best one that he's had. He's going to look to the outside now, try and get that job done. Will he be able to break a little bit later? The answer is going to be yes, he will.
Oh, what a move.
That was a perfect pass there.
That was a glorious move around the outside, a beautiful piece of late braking. Picard had so much confidence with the nose of the car to make sure it would go in, and drove clean round the outside of Piatella there, and now he can start to pull away. But Picard, that was sensational.
And this is what I said earlier on. You can make the pass on the outside line. I think famously in the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing, Mo Garfila was just the best driver of going around the outside of people down at Lacombe. But Picard was just phenomenal. You're going to get a replay of Simon Cattell on your screen momentarily, and that will just show you the huge slipstream advantage that he had when he made that pass down into Lacombe. But it does seem to be that there are some guys who really are trimmed out. But for Oli Picard, that so far has got to have been the pass of the race over that 3ID Motorsports team. We have got to talk about the 3ID Motorsports guys just a little bit. We'll try and get it up on your screen in a little while, but if you have a look at the front wing, along the front nose, they have an RIP to Tom Zaz, one of their teammates who passed away, a horrific accident where he was killed in a car crash. And of course, all of our thoughts go out to him, and a great way of honouring him on the front nose of all of those 3ID Motorsports cars this year, Nick.
Yeah, very fitting tribute. Absolute tragedy that happened there, but a lovely tribute that they've put on the front of that car, and I suspect they'll probably run it the entire season as well. But very sad, but very fitting what they've done with the car.
So we will now run through your gaps as it stands. Hutu to Benito is 8.8 seconds on the racetrack. Benito to Hugo Luis is 2.1 seconds as it stands right now. Luis hasn't yet been able to fully shake off Jake Sturgis. The gap between those two drivers is 1.8 seconds on the racetrack. Then it's a further 2.1 seconds back to Isaac Price, who rounds out your top 5. Now, this is the thing that gets me. There's only really from P3 down to about P10 a maximum of 2 seconds separating these drivers, and one tiny mistake or a little bit of a slower pit in lap, not enough confidence on your pit out lap, these drivers can really switch positions quite a lot still in this race.
There's all to play for. I've got to say, the Jake Sturgios and his own teammate just behind him as well, Isaac Price, they're doing a fantastic job. They really are holding on to Hugo Louis currently, and it's very, very impressive what those two drivers are doing. And I suspect that the Enex Racing guys are going to be thrilled with what they're doing, in fact.
Yeah, I think that there's a number of teams right now who are really showing their form. And you've got to say as well for Oli Picard, his first race in the series, in that Glacier Racing team, doing a sterling job for that organisation. The guy ahead of him as well, Isaac Price, in his first race in this series. Phenomenal job by him. We talked about his qualifying earlier on, qualifying 6th on the grid in that number 36 car. So this thing as well, yes, of course, we've got to talk about Hutu, Louise, you know, the two established drivers. Hutu, of course, being one of the veterans, having run in each of the 5 championship campaigns now. But those rookies are doing a sterling job in this event.
Incredible, considering they are rookies to the event, they're doing an unbelievable job at the moment. It shows the progression of iRacing as well, and the fact you can jump up, and the fact that you're quick from the get-go. And this 4th place at the moment, and with these drivers, is fantastic.
We're going to go and have a look at Ilka Hapana right now, because he is battling with Yorni Tamara in the battle for 18th position on the racetrack. Ilka Hapana getting a very good run once again as they come out of Rodillo, flick it to the right-hand side, go underneath the bridge down this long Kemmel straightaway. Will Hapana try and do the same move that we saw earlier on with Picard? The answer is going to be an easy pass on the outside there. It almost looks as though Tamara just gave him the position down into Lakumnik.
Yeah, again, same move on the outside. There's a lot of confidence around the outside there with the braking. These drivers have a lot of faith going around the outside, a lot of faith with the driver on the inside as well, that they won't make any rash decision or move. And again, Ilka has now moved up. It's a great driving from him.
Yuhu Abe last time by a 1 minute 46.401. One of the fastest laps that we've seen in this race. Of course, Gregor Hutu is already down into 1 minute 45.7. Although
incredible pace.
Drivers are on a two-stop
45.4 now.
Yeah. Drivers on a two-stop strategy, though, this will be that time when they come onto pit road in the next 2 to 3 laps time, because you do a slightly longer first stint, then you want to make that gap up in that short middle stint, and I think potentially Abe could be on that alternate strategy, because that was just a blinding lap by that number 30 car.
Yeah, that alternate strategy may play out, and we'll see it fairly soon as well, but that the pace, just generally these drivers at the front, it is really started to pick up. Louis, as he sort of goes forwards, falls back a little bit from Benito, but Benito, I have to say, he's on a 46.3. Louis was 2/10 faster that time round. Nevertheless, that's still good pace, and he's staying consistent now as Benito. He looks like he's really calmed himself down. Those early few laps, he was making a lot of sort of wide bursts with the curb and not giving himself a lot of room, but now he's really found a rhythm.
Of course, the new for the 2014 campaign is also the iRacing stewards will black flag drivers and remove them from the race if they get more than what we call 15 incident points. So if you see them going off the racetrack lap after lap after lap, then they are going to get incident points and then eventually be disqualified from the race. Having a look at car 41, I take that back, it's actually going to be Michelle Chesney. They went too wide through Eau Rouge. That doesn't ever really work. They managed to make it happen, but they had a little bit of contact between the two of them, Nick. They were able to get the job done, but then down at Rodillo, that's when they came together. Chesney and Lassie Bryn Hansen, 2 new drivers in the series again. Chesney does have some front wing damage there.
Yeah, the rookie's going very, very close there, and that damage is going to cost them. But you go to show how a rookie can come into a series and do fantastic towards the front and then have a bit of a shaky one in the mid part of the field. But these drivers sort themselves out. But yeah, a little bit of that wing damage is really going to cost him now in this race.
And he will really have to hope that he's not too far away from a pit stop, because that really does seem to be that it's hurting his car, especially on this section of the racetrack as they come down into Pouan, that fast double apex left-hander. Ahead of them, though, we're having a look at David Kops and Mogar Philo, but there is the thing that's going on, that the run still does carry on. When you get into that draft, you suck up right behind the cars, and you see there with the Kops, he gained about 4 or 5 car lengths in the space of the one straightaway on Mogar Philo ahead of him on that run down into the box stop.
That initial toe looks fantastic. You suck up them so fast, but then you stall out about 2-3 car lengths back. And that's the point where the driver has to essentially risk it or bin it, because you're going to have to go up the inside or you're going to get stuck behind the car for far too long. And De Korp is trying to do that at the moment against Philo.
He is, yes. And he got not the run he would have wanted, though, out of La Source. So he's really going to have to work for it as they come up the hill through Rodillion once again. And he's close, but I don't think he'll be close enough this time. Again, you just see how much they suck up, though, in this long straightaway, closing it down to about 2 car lengths, not quite close enough. But that closing speed is just phenomenal, Nick. And you talk about the straight line speed that they had coming down, 189 miles an hour for Davide De Korp, and it was about 186 miles an hour for Mo Garfield that last time by.
Yeah, and also it was Hapala was able to do the similar sort of thing on Evelyn as well, and has moved up a position there. So Hapala now into 17th, he's moving forwards. It goes to show the downforce level as well, and Hapala's got the job done in the same sort of fashion.
So great battles going on in the midfield. I have got to keep you aware of Oli Picard, because he's now close up to the rear of Isaac Price. He's only about 1.2 seconds behind him on the racetrack as it stands. So Picard, who qualified for this race in 9th position, is potentially now knocking on the door of the top 5. Isaac Price, he's kind of fallen back a little bit because he was right there with Jake Sturgis in the early going of this race. But then it does seem to be that he's fallen back about 3-4 seconds now behind Jake Sturgis, and he'll be coming under attack from Oli Picard in the next 2 to 3 laps time.
Picard has got some fantastic pace as well. He's closed that gap really fast. And again, on the last lap, it was only a 10th, but it was a 10th more than what Price was able to do. And Picard is closing in, and those Inix guys are starting to think what's going on behind.
And I'll tell you what, the straight line speed for Oli Picard with that draft there was 193 miles an hour coming down into Lacoon. And just phenomenal speed there from Oli Picard in that car. And that shows, once again, the varying downforce levels that these drivers are running in this race. A little bit further back behind them, U8 and Tommy Nilsson, they are battling for P8 on the racetrack. Now, last time, it did seem to be that there was a bit of status quo between them. U8 was only a couple of tenths of a second faster, but he's just been nibbling at that gap between himself and Nilsson lap after lap after lap. And I think U8, of course, we saw him in a couple of races last year. Phenomenal driver, once again, doing a great display. And he's one of those drivers that's not in a multi-car outfit.
Yeah, he's doing it all on his own. And to be honest, if you're on your own against some of these top teams with that many drivers and that level of drivers, it's an impressive showing. And, you know, it's events like this and drives like this, they have to really show themselves.
The number 42 car is back onto pit road for the second time. That is Michele Mancusi. His second pit stop, the Italian driver, just not going the way he wants to. Already scored 1 lap down in the 30th position. In fact, the only driver who is scored 1 lap down who is still running in the race. We have 29 cars currently scored on the lead lap. The last one of them is Jeremy Bouteloup in the number 19 Radicals machine. So, and of course, being a very long track as well, it does make things easier for the leaders. Yes, there will be blue flags, but still, running in traffic, it can really upset the balance of your race car, and the way that you catch them as well. There is a lot of time to be gained and lost. And that psyche as well, when you're working through lap traffic, it really does change the way you have to think about the race in it.
You've got to think of the long game as well. It depends on, you know, don't want to get too much dirty air behind, because it will start pressuring on your tyres as well, and tyres is critical around here, depending on what strategy you do. So as I think, it's all balance.
It is all about balance, and we are now getting to that mid-stage of the race. No one has made what we call a scheduled pit stop, so it does look as though pretty much all of these drivers are on that one-stop strategy. We were told that it'll be anywhere between about 24-25 laps, but you normally see drivers do on one stint, and Greg Hootie is about to complete his 19th lap of the race. So for some drivers, they might pit early for their first stint, but that one-stop pit window is now officially open.
Yeah, within the next 4 laps, you'd think, within this specific range, depending on what range they can get on the tyres, this is the time when they're going to start pitting. You may want to come in early and try and get a bit of an undercut and start go fast again. But these drivers have been pushing a lot now, and these tyres are starting to really get down to the bare threads. And Hooter out in front on a 45.1.
Simon Cattell battling with Andre Borcher in the battle for the 12th position on the racetrack. Now, Cattell and Borcher, they've had some great battles in years gone by. They're having another one of these now. Borgia qualified for this race in that number 9 3ID Motorsports car down in the 17th position, and Simon Cattell qualified in the 19th position. They've been able to make some time up. I did think, though, that the fact that they've been running so close together, almost battling for position, has hurt their charge closer to the top 10, but still, good drives by these two drivers. It does look as though Cattell is struggling in some ways to find a way past Andre Borgia. It does look as though he's got the overall pace, though.
Pace is there, but again, you got to get past the driver first. And these drivers, you've seen it all day long. That dirty air effect is very, very difficult to overcome. But when you do, especially around the outside of their com, you can really make it work with a late braking manoeuvre.
Tommy Nielsen losing a position to you, Abe, and this was one of the easiest passes I think we've seen all day. Abe just got a phenomenal run out of La Source, was able to pretty much be side by side by the time they came to the kink. So he didn't even have to make use of the entire straightaway. And Nielsen just moved to the left-hand side, allowed Abe to have the position. Great momentum. You, Abe, now up into P8 on the racetrack. And this is, of course, the guy who qualified for this race in the 14th position, now securely within the top 10 as we're about to complete lap number 20 of his race.
Abe having a great drive. Piatella's not exactly going quick at the moment either. He fell back from Bacala. Bacala in turn is close on Isaac Price. So Abe may even get close to Piatella before the round of stops, but yeah, you are Abe, after going past Nielsen, has already started to pull away.
Yeah, so Martin Piatella is right now, about 2 seconds ahead of him on the racetrack, but last time by, Martin Piatella did a 1 minute 45.9. Abe was able to do a 1 minute 45.9 as well, so status quo between him on that last lap. But Abe set his fastest lap of the race that last time by, as he's now working on his 21st lap of the campaign. Let's talk about the guy out front, however, just for a moment. Gregor Husu, last time by, 1 minute 45.087. He'll be in the 44s likely this time by. Just what a phenomenal pace by Gregor Husu, and there is a reason why people call him the world's fastest alien, because his performances like this, he just get his head down and crack lap after lap after lap after lap out and never put a foot wrong.
It's that sort of... whoa, sorry, I've just seen Hapler going around the outside again. Another move from Hapler going around the outside there on the entry of Lecon. But yeah, it's that consistency, that pace, that faith and belief that Hutu has, and he's just showing it at the moment. And the pace at the front is relentless.
Yep, it's just absolutely... And also Benito as well. I mean, he has been able to hold off the established Sugarese. In fact, in the last couple of laps, build out a bit of a gap as well. He's been about 2 tenths of a second faster the last 4 or 5 laps or so. But her pilot, now he's been able to get past Mogar Philo. I expect to actually see him disappear off into the sunset and really start charging down Alexi Loma, Simon Cattell, Andre Borgia, and that group of people. The only issue is it's taken him 21 laps to get through all of that traffic, and now he really has just got to hope that when pit stops shake out, he doesn't lose that position again.
Yeah, and in the process as well, Hutu just did a 44.9, an incredible pace again. He's down to late 44s, and while Benito are doing the 45.4, so Louis is falling quite a way back as well now, so he's still no much more Picard going on,
Nick, because this is
Price.
Phenomenal action. Timo Even and Mogar Philo, they're going side by side through the bus stop. They're going to go side by side into La Source. Let's see who's going to get the job done there. Mogar Philo on the inside line, on the outside line, Timo Even, and Philo does get the job done there over Timo Even, and ahead of him, Oli Picardi was saying as well.
Yeah, that was a great move. He went up the inside on the entry of Lecom and got Isaac Price very, very easily as well. Price didn't put up much of a battle, and now Oli Picala has moved up into 5th place and will try and close down his teammates. Sorry, that's Price's teammate, Jake Sturgios.
Yeah, and that was a great battle, as I say, that was going on between Philo, and that actually almost continued down Lacuma as well, because he had Yorni Tamala going side by side with him, and Yorni Tamala was able to just get that job done on the outside line. The outside line at Lacuma really has just been working perfectly in this race here today, and that's going to be a bit of a shame for Mogar Philo, because it does seem to be that it's that mid-race that he's struggling, and he's lost himself, a couple of positions there in the last couple of laps that will really knock his confidence in what is his second year in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, which suppose you have a replay as well. Hutu's actually just entered pit lane now as well, so with Hutu in, you're going to get a few other drivers starting to filter in, I would have thought now as well. Right, so, very into pit lane, in the safety car as well for Hutu.
Yep, 4 fresh tyres for Gregor Hutu. He's going to top it up with enough race gas to get to the end of this race, and he will be back out and away. A long pit stop, but he is back out onto the racetrack. 37 miles an hour is pit road speed here at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. As you come out, you've got to wait until after you get past that white line before you can blend back onto the racetrack. Hutu is back out, and he is currently scored in what would essentially be the 9th position on the racetrack. But importantly for him, he doesn't have anyone behind him or anyone in front right now. So Enzo Benito is going to be classified as your leader the next time they come past the start-finish line, and that will be his first lap led in WCS this year. But he might not be too far back from coming in pit road himself, because we are now really in that pit stop sequence.
We certainly are. I tell you what, the man that's flying at the moment, Ali Picala, since he got past, he's just at a 45.0. Unbelievable pace from Picala at the moment. He's got so much faith towards the end of this stint in the tyres and on this fuel in particular, and Picala is flying.
A 45.0 is just 1/10 of a second slower than what Gregor Hutu's done for his fast lap of the race. That shows
and Sturgis
just how
did a
fast he's been.
0.7 as well. So you know, that's quite a lot. He's just gained on him.
Yes, 7/10 of a second in one lap, and you can really win or lose your own race at this stage of the race. When that fuel comes down, you know, those tyres really warm, you still got grip in them, you've got to keep, you know, pushing all the way until you get to that pit stop. Behind them, it does look as though that Lasse Brun Hansen has been able to get past Paul Ilbrink. So 2 European drivers battling there on the racetrack, and you had Lasse Brun Hansen just make that pass again on the outside line. And Enzo Benito, when he came past the start-finish line, is now officially scored as your race leader. 2.7 seconds is the gap between him and Hugo Luis.
Yeah, and that time round, Picala was still 2/10 quicker. He wasn't as quick as he was last time round, but he's getting closer to Sturgis. He did a 45.6 and a 45.4 for Picala, so a few more tenths taken out. But Picala is the man on a mission at the moment.
Enzo Benito also last time by a 1 minute 45.168. So a couple of tenths of a second slower than Hutu's fastest lap. However, we don't know how much fuel Enzo Benito has in his tank. And we are on that lap 24 now, as we said. We were likely to get everyone moving. I'm going to get a replay up on your screen with that pass between Picala and Price, which is then in the battle for the 5th position. Of course, they are now running in the 4th and 5th spots respectively, as Gregor Hutu came onto pit road. Really another textbook pass there. And there's nothing that Price could really do about it at all, because it was all down to that momentum that Picala had for the slipstream.
But again, that outside braking, Picala has so much faith. The guys going on the outside have got so much faith on that line to get the job done, and they're doing it with ease at the moment.
So, this is just perfectly easy way of getting that job done. Enzo Benito, by the way, is working himself down towards the bus stop chicane. Let's see whether he's going to come in this time by, or whether he's going to do another lap. In fact, if he does another lap, I'd love to see what his lap time is. And he is going to do another lap. So Enzo Benito in that 17 car. Let's see what his probably fast lap of the race will be. It's a 1 minute 45.1 again. So consistent. In fact, his last 2 laps there were again within 2/100ths of a second. I think you're completely right, Nick. After those first 5 or 6 laps where he was a little bit rugged, he's really settled down as Arbe is on pit road.
Yeah, Arbe's come in now, so that's going to release Hutu, even though Hutu's going over the line now, so that's another position gain for him as these guys make their pit stops. But yeah, he's dived into pit lane. The guys at the front though, Benito did a 45.1, 45.2 for Luis. Sturgis did a 45.5, and again, Picala was quicker than Sturgis on a 45.3. So Picala's the quicker of those 2 drivers, but Luis and Benito are just settling into a lovely little rhythm with 2.7 seconds splitting them.
Yeah, Sturgis last time by 1 minute 45.515, and Hugo Luis 1 minute 45.208. In fact, Hugo Luis is still kind of matching Enzo Benito, but it's that little 10th of a second there, that 5/100ths of a second here, that really has been a difference maker between those 2 drivers, and that is why it's a 2.7 second gap between those 2 drivers after 25 laps worth of racing. You put it into comparison, that is only really 1/10 of a second a lap, and that shows the close margin in this, the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We're going to go and have a look at P12. Andre Borcher battling with Alex Simpson. He is the team manager for the Apex Racing Group, is Alex Simpson. And Apex Racing really, you know, stormed onto the iRacing.com World Championship stage this year, dominating in that road up to the Pro Series, then in the Pro Series itself. Really interested to see what's going to happen with that Apex Racing group this season, Nick.
It certainly is, and as you just say that, Benito's carried on against the guys at the front. 44.9 now for Benito, and a 45.2 for Luis. So these guys at the front, they're going quite a lot longer than Gregor Hutu here, even though he's fallen into a nice little gap. But Benito, that's a great time for him. And Jake Sturgios has also carried on, as so has Pekala. Isaac Price are all carrying on at the moment, so it was Hutu that decided to come in early. And these guys are going much, much deeper into the race. Let's see if that will repay them later on.
Oh, it might do, because I tell you what, Gregor Hutu is now 24 seconds behind Enzo Benito. So all of that speed that Hutu had in the early going, it's disappearing. He's been 3 seconds a lap slower this last couple of laps.
Wow.
It could be Enzo Benito leading this race after pit stops. If he can do 1, maybe 2 more laps, this could be the game changer.
Cronke's just going to go past Hutu as well here.
And that shows the speed there. The speed loss that Hutu is losing right now. Cronke was able to breeze past the 3-time champion that is Gregor Hutu. And I think right now Hutu is in a real danger of not only losing this race, but also having Hugo Luis pass him. Because let's not forget, Luis is only 3 seconds back from Enzo Benito. Got a replay that's up on your screen of Paul Ilbrink. He went off in one of the braking zones. He is back out onto the racetrack, but he has scored right now down in the 25th position on the racetrack. So it's been a tough day, actually, for the Radical team, because you've got Paul Ilbrink scored down in the 25th position. Jeremy Bootsloop scored in the 28th position.
Benito's pitted.
And here he comes. This is
race leader Benito's finally in, and I'm just going to see if there's any of the other drivers starting to come in as well. But Benito's the first man to dive into pit lane and see if there's any others going in with him. But Luis has gone through by the looks of it. Sturgios has definitely gone through, as has Pekala.
So this means that Luis is your race leader. If we know what the gaps have been, it's about 2-3 seconds, or actually doing 1 extra lap. Luis can always eradicate that advantage that Benito has. We need to see where Gregor Hutu is. He is coming past the start-finish line, so it does look as though he might just be able to get back out into the race lead. The answer is going to be yes, but it's going to be a lot closer than earlier on in this race. And I want to see what that gap is between Benito and Gregor Hutu. I think it's only about 5 seconds on the racetrack. That advantage for Hutu is really half and a little bit more there.
Yeah, that's really come down for Gregor Hutu. Obviously, he's now adapted and adjusted to himself to that fuel load and tyres, but that has really come down a heck of a lot. It's just a question of how quickly can these guys get back up to pace.
We've got a number of drivers on pit road. Alex Simpson is on pit road. Ilka, her partner, David de Korps. So really a lot of drivers coming in. Fulvio Barazzini, Lasse Brun Hansen, Matthias Egger, all on pit road right now. We are into that sequence of pit stops. And I tell you what, Hugo Luis, the last thing you need when you're trying to set your first lap on a race is lap traffic. But this could actually help out Hugo Luis a little bit, because he's going to get a huge tow. And Bootsloop is just going to move out of the way. So he's not going to get as much as you thought there. But Hugo Luis is still going on, and he might be pitting this time by. Having a look though down in the mid pack, seeing what's going on there, some great battles going on, and see it on your screen. Nizolowski there and Friskops were battling for position. Friskops aims to get himself past Nizolowski, and Hugo Luis stays out for another lap. This is big now, Nick.
Yeah, he's gone even later into the race now. Hugo Luis is flying along, and it's still good enough pace. It's still good enough pace from Hugo Luis, but he's carrying on, and he's still going. I think it's Price that's now pitted.
And also, Oliver Carter is on pit road. Jake Sturgis is on pit road. And let's be honest, they were separated by about 0.2 of a second when they came in. It's all going to come down to the guys who do the jack work here. Who can get out between Pekala and Sturgis? This is going to be one of the big battles for the latter stage of this race. And it is going to be Pekala coming out of pit road. Sturgis comes out, and they're going to be Linus Stern. In fact, actually, Sturgis gained about 0.2 of a second on that battle. So they come in, Linus Stern, and they come out of Linus Stern, and also Isaac Price is out of pit road as well. We have got to keep our attention though, Nick, on Hugo Luis. These are going to be laps. You know, he's going to have to drive like a WCS champion. Of course, he is a WCS champion. He's got to drive like one now, because he can just about start sniffing a victory if he can do 1, maybe 2 more laps.
It's going to be so close when Louis pits. It's, you know, Hutu's doing some solid enough times now. They are coming down, but nevertheless, it's just a question of how far he can go. But Louis is going to be in and out. It's going to be a short pit stop, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is going to be a short pitch off, and that's the other advantage as well, is that he's not going to have to spend as much time in his box. And actually, an interesting thing is that Jake Sturgis didn't take tyres, which is why he's a little bit faster on that pit stop compared to Ollie Picala.
It's a big risk.
So we've got to... It is a big risk, but if you can make the tyres go for 44 laps, it could be a difference maker as Hugo is on to pit road. So this is the game changing for the race. Let's see where Gregor Hutu is, because he is right now just about coming out of Stavole, working himself down towards that long, sweeping left-hand corner. This is going to be a lot closer than anyone's going to give it credit for. Of course, it's a very slow pit road, but I think it's only going to be 2-3 seconds.
It's going to be close. He's just hit the box now, and Hutu's coming through the bus stop, and he's still going to negotiate that very, very slow turn 1 of La Source. And Hutu has come across the line now. It's a question of where is Luis.
Pit box. This is going to be incredibly close.
He's going into that source now for
Hutu. Luis has gone. Oh, Hugo just loses out there. But it's a second on the racetrack, and Luis almost got that. It's 1 second between Gregor Hutu and Hugo Luis after pit stops.
Yeah, and look at the run that Luis just had through the top of Eau Rouge there, through Radion, and he's gone defensive. Hutu went defensive straight away. He pulled to the right-hand side of the track, realising that Hugo Louis was going to be coming on him, and he's getting very, very close to him, but nothing he can do on the entry of Lecom. But wow, that was brilliant from Hugo Louis to close up that much of the advantage that had been created by Gregor Hutu. But Hugo Louis now is going to be all over the back of Gregor Hutu. Just got to get those tyres up to temperature nice and quickly. Wait, ran wide there, Hutu. He is struggling.
And we very rarely see mistakes from Gregor Hutu. I think I saw one mistake from him last season. But I tell you what, we've got a race on right now. The last couple of drivers are making their pit stops. You've got Isaac Price battling right now with Martin Teller for P8 on the racetrack. Price lost out a little bit on pit stops there, but he's battling. In fact, behind him, right down the inside goes Yorni Tamala down into the final chicane. That was a big, bold move there by Yorni Tamala in that 3ID Motorsports car, just sliding past Isaac Price.
Huge move. Luis at the front at the moment has not got any closer to Hutu, but he's stayed about in the same sort of region, closes up into the bus stop, and these guys are going to be going at it for sure. But this is going to be so close between these guys now as coming over the line. It's been good lap there for Luis. He's kept on the back of him. He's had faith in the tyres, and he's got on with the job. And he's going to close in on Hutu now as the Kroenke carries on.
Yeah, and Martin Kroenke still stays out. 30 laps that he's done on this one tank of fuel. We've got to see what the straight line speed is for Hugo Luis as they work up the hill. Now, Martin Kroenke can do 189 miles an hour in a comparable car without draft. You see, Hutu is defensive once again, but I think actually that time,
Luis is slowing?
Yeah, Luis is slowing. I think he got a slowdown penalty there. He was just too aggressive through Eau Rouge, and that is Luis's race pretty much done. All that advantage he gained by staying out longer, he closed it up to, 1 second on the racetrack? A simple error, and we are talking feet here, and Hugo Luis, all of a sudden, is about 2 seconds behind Hutu again, and Hutu has dodged a huge bullet.
Dare I say that was a rookie mistake? That's so rare for Luis to do as well. That was really just... That was so aggressive coming over the top of Eau Rouge there and coming onto Radion. He wanted to get the best possible drive he could, and it was just too much of a risk, and he's now copped the price for it.
Yeah, and I'm just having a look, and he had all four wheels outside of the curb, and that is the reason why he got that slowdown penalty. We just saw one drive there. I'll try and get confirmation in a minute. He just lost a lot of positions. We'll get confirmation of that in a moment. Martin Kroenke, let's see if he comes on the pit road with 30 laps for this race called complete.
Lost out to Picala there. Look, he's gone backwards because Picala's gone up, and he's now the one behind Sturgios.
Yep, and Kroenke is finally onto pit road. 30 laps of this race scored complete, and he's going to come in. In fact, actually, he will probably come out around Hugh Abe, around P13, so not the race that Martin Kroenke necessarily wanted to have. He perhaps just went a little bit too long. And it's a 2 second gap, by the way, now between Hutu and Luis. So really, Luis just lost that race there with a very simple mistake. down on that tip of Radillion.
Yeah, Kroenke, like you said, has made his stop as well. Kroenke in and back out now. He'll feed out into the middle of the pack. But so out in front, Gregor Houtu will now lead the way, but he's not got the pressure that we thought he might do from Hugo Louis. But he's going to try and close that gap. It's 1.9 at the end of the lap.
And Paul Ilbrink is on pit road again. So, again, not the day that Paul Ilbrink wants. And he was well down the field in the first place. And in that 15th position, he will probably come out towards the rear of the field. 4 fresh tyres for him. I'm just having a look to see Timo even in the 20th position goes past it. Outside the top 20 likely for Paul Ilbrink. For Gregor Houtu, though, I mean, he was getting rattled there by Hugo Louis. And he went a little bit wide. And he's going defensive. I think Houtu knew that potentially Hugo Louis was going to be close enough to make a pass that time had Hugo not made that mistake.
Yeah, the straight line advantage. Hutu's clearly aware of Louis's advantage in a straight line, and he went defensive so fast out of Radillon that you could see that Hutu was thinking, no, he's getting closer and he will make an attack. But Louis was just too much for him. Going around on the next lap, and it's cost him. It's cost him massively now as well. Hutu's now dropped into the 46s, so he's starting to get the pace coming back towards him. It's just a question of what Hugo Louis can do. As he crosses the line now, that's a 46.3, plays a 46.2, so Louis is quicker.
He is, and that gap's down to 1.9 seconds. We might yet still have a race, although there's only, of course, 13 laps of this race to go. The big loser, of course, is Enzo Benito. And he went longer than Houtu, but not longer than Louis. And I think, again, that pressure came back on him. But after pit stops, he was running faster than Gregor Houtu a couple of laps ago. That last time by, he was 3/10 slower. Benito is still pushing, but in some ways, it's sad to see him now drop down to the 3rd position in a race that he's not really done anything wrong. Big trouble, big trouble. Yorni Tamana in a huge mess down at the bus stop chicane. Now, this all started down with Alexi Aloma and Simon Kittel, and down into the chicane. Kittel just spun that car, ground to a stop. Then you had Alexi Aloma T-bone him, and then you had Yorni Tamana slide into him. 3 cars involved there. Mo Garfido all over the curbs. Everyone trying to get out of the way. And the bus stop chicane is one of those places that if one driver messes up, it's always a chain reaction, Nick.
Yeah, and Nick Couple has just got past Tamala again as well. Oh, he's going to get taken another one. So yeah, he's really struggling with the straight line speed of his car now. He's going to get another position go from him. That's Aloma going around the outside, on the inside of him, sorry, on the entry to Lacombe. So he's just got 3 spots there. Yeah,
Yorni Tamana's got some very substantial front wing damage. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got any suspension damage as well. We're going to get the replay up on your screen to show you what happened. And it really was that, you know, one car spinning and then Aloma running into him. Nothing that Aloma could do there as well, because she's so late onto the brakes into the bus stop. And it really all started when Aloma started his natural braking phase. And, you know, Aloma really couldn't have been faulted for that one at all, because, you know, you're slowing down to the 2nd slowest corner on the racetrack, yet you got to then slow down another 20 miles an hour.
Exactly. By the way, I think it's game on at the front. 4/10 quick at that time for Luis. He's now 1.4 behind Houtu.
Wow. We have still got a race. And I tell you what, Luis could have been leading this race by now if that's the speed he has. And I think that Luis, after he made that mistake, he was thinking in his helmet, not again. I do not want to lose a championship down to mistakes again. He had a couple of them last year. We talked about it earlier. Down at Sebring, he had that close call to Martin Conke. At Watkins Glen last year, him and his teammate Martin Conke out on the 1st corner of the 1st lap after qualifying out front. I think Hugo Louis is going to take this championship in the next 10 laps, and he's going to drive some of the hardest laps he's ever driven in WCS competition.
He is ragging everything out of that 3ID car at the moment. Absolutely threw it across Lacombe and Malmedy, going down towards Rivage. Incredible speed he was carrying. I mean, he was so far over the curbs, he may as well have been a touring car. Unbelievable commitment through there.
And he is definitely gaining. To quote Murray Walker, he is definitely gaining as they come out of Stavelot, work themselves down towards Blanchimont once again. 33 laps of this race will be scored complete at the line. We have still got a phase of this race where anything, and I mean anything, can happen, Nick. We're going to show the incident up on your screen of what happened with Hugo Louis, and the rule is that you have to have at least 2 wheels on that curb on the left-hand side of that. Essentially, it is the Rodillion corner, more famously known in the entire complex as Air Rouge. But still, he had all 4 wheels outside. But no, it could be an inch, it could be half an inch. But if you have all 4 wheels out, Nick, you've got to do that slowdown penalty.
Yeah, it's costing, but it's not costing at the moment because, again, he was about 2 tenths quicker that time round. Gregor Houtu did a 46.3, and he went really wide at the top there as well. So he's got to go careful as he went over the top of Eau Rouge there, because he can see Luis is coming. 46.0 again for Hugo Luis, and it's only 1.2 between them.
It is game on out front.
Picala's going to get Sturgios. Picala's going around the outside of him. He's gone up. That's a great pass. Picala's got another position.
Yeah, we'll get a replay of that up on your screen in just a moment's time. And it was a real good run there on the outside, and we cleared him before he actually got down to Lecombe. And just a perfect pass there. Oli Picala over Jake Sturgios. Oli Picala up into P4 in this race.
What a drive this is from Picala.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so what you see on your screen there was exactly what we were talking about earlier. All 4 wheels on the outside of the curb. That meant he had to give that slowdown, which generally you lose about 1.5 to 2 seconds on the racetrack. That was the difference maker earlier on, but I think in many ways that actually charged Luis into action. Some drivers always have it. They have a bad moment and they start slipping backwards. Other drivers, it just drives them on even more. But I tell you what, we have got a great race here, and what a way to start off the 2014 campaign. You've got rookies, Oli Picala, really taking it to some of the established drivers, getting past Jake Sturgios in the last couple of laps, and out front, it's a battle that's gone on for 4 years now. Gregor Houtu in the number 1 Team Redline machine, Hugo Luis in the number 3 3ID Motorsports car. The gap is less than 1 second with 10 laps to go.
Look at the pace though, 45.7 from Luis that time around, 46.0 from Houtu. Incredible pace. And I tell you what, it's going to be fantastic to see now if Oli Picala can get anywhere near the back of Enzo Benito.
Indeed, because I'll tell you what, Oli Picala last time by was also the same kind of speed as Luis.
Yeah.
They are the 2 fastest guys on the racetrack right now. Phenomenal speed by both. And I tell you what, Luis closed a lot up the hill once again. I'll get you their trap speeds actually. And we've got the replay coming up on your screen for that battle between Picala and Sturgios. That's going to be up on your screen right about now. But Houtu was 189 miles an hour, Hugo Luis 191, and Luis didn't even have all of the draft there. And this is what has been the key factor in this race. We just saw it with that pass, that was that replay between Picala and Sturgios. If you can set your car to work well down the Cornwall straightaway, you've got a serious advantage in this race.
I cannot believe the commitment Luis is throwing into this at the moment. It's unbelievable through Stavolo. He's over the curbs and thrown it so hard. The commitment he's got at the moment. He wants this so much. And Houtu is probably looking backwards thinking he is getting bigger and bigger in my mirrors because Hugo Luis is throwing that car about.
This is my 2nd year commentating in the WCS. It's my 4th year watching action. And I tell you what, I don't think I have seen a more determined Hugo Luis since that year he has won that championship. This is going to be the critical lap of this race. And I think
he's on
if he's going to get it done, he's got to get it done the first time. So, gap at the line, what is it? It is down to 0.7 of a second. Get Lecombe right, you could have a chance to win. And he gets it right. He doesn't get that wiggle out the corner. Houtu got a little bit of a wiggle. I don't think he'll be close enough this time. Perhaps next lap. But
he was 2 tenths faster that time round as well.
Yeah, 2 tenths faster. You can probably see the detail on the actual rear bodywork right now. He'll be taking some notes. But you see, Houtu's gone defensive already. He's weaving across the racetrack, trying to break that draft. 193 miles an hour for Hugo Luis, and Gregor Houtu can only manage 189 miles an hour.
That commitment from Luis on the entry of Lecombe was seriously impressive as well. He is on him. He's absolutely on him now. This is fantastic racing from Hugo Luis, and the pace that he is setting. And he sees Gregor Houtu and he says, "I'm after you. I want this more than you." And he is going for it.
Of course, behind them, you have still got the battle between Enzo Benito and Oli Picala. Picala last time by 1 minute 45.909. Enzo Benito 1 minute 46.0. So he is closing up just a little bit. We are going to get a replay up on your screen of Matthias Egger making a pass on the racetrack. I believe that was with Michelle Chesney in that number 40 car. Egger, of course, had a bit of an up and down race. He qualified down in the 34th position, but now solidly inside the top 20. So the Orion Racing car really is driving every lap to the limit. Out front, though, we're going to keep the action out front for the time being, because this is by far the battle that everyone wants to see. It's between Hutu and Louise. The gap this time by, will it be below half a second? I'm not sure. It is going to be a little bit closer, but it's that dirty air phase of the race now. And in fact, yeah, we're in that dirty air area. Now Louise has got to be smooth in that middle portion of the racetrack, because if he's rugged, he's just going to be scrubbing speed in that dirty air.
Yeah, both said a 45.8 then as well, and Benito did a 45.8 also. Sturgis 46.1, Pacala 45.8. The front four drivers did basically an identical time, and Hutu straight away went defensive again. He realises how slippy that car is of Hugo Louis, and he goes defensive immediately. Yeah,
and we're on board there with Hugo Louis, and you can just see how much closer he was getting. This, I think, is going to be critical in this race, and I tell you what, I think that this is going to come down to the final lap of the final race right now, if it doesn't get decided before then, because I think that Louise, he's just got to nail this sequence of corners once, and if he can nail it once, and really, cut out that dirty air effect, and this is the corner right here, Nick, where it's most profound. Phil, if you can get through it here, then you've got a chance, but it's that corner
he was
really
fast
does
through
hurt
there
the
with
car.
Hugo Louis.
Yeah, perfect. Again, we're going to have a quick replay up on your screen. This is with Lussie Brunhansen, and let's not forget, this is another rookie driver in the series, making up a position. 47 car of Brunhansen. Oh, I think he's done a sterling job today. First Danish driver we've got in the series. What a good drive by him.
Yeah, with all the new guys that come in, it's a fantastic drive from them, but even the guys towards the front and the back, these new guys are getting experience, that's for sure.
We have got ourselves less than 10 laps to go, and anything can still happen as they come past the stripe. I'll tell you what, the gap is a little bit closer this time by. And yes, it's down to half a second. This is potentially the time. And I'll tell you what, you will see Hutu go defensive as soon as they come out this corner. Look at this. This could be the first big chance of Louise. It might take him 2 laps to do so, but this potentially could be the opportunity. They come through Air Rouge. They'll come out of Air Rouge. Don't make the mistake again, Hugo Louise. And you see immediately, Hutu is going ultra defensive, breaking that draft, and Louise is not having anything of it at all there.
No, that was 0.3 the difference there as well. 45.7, 45.4, and Louis closed so fast up there as well. As soon as he gets any sort of run through Air Rouge, he will have him, because there's nothing Hutu can do at the moment.
I tell you what as well, Hutu will have to be a little bit careful in the next couple of laps, because if it gets to a point that Louise is within 2-3 car lengths, Hutu won't be able to start, moving around the racetrack as much. He'll come down to that one move rule that would otherwise be called blocking. So I think Hutu's in a lose-lose situation here, because it's only so much that he can really, break the draft. And at what point does it become breaking the draft? At what point does it potentially become blocking?
Well, that's true, but he went right straight away, so that's one move, and he just went simply back onto the racing line. So he's made the one move as such, and it looks like Louis has just fallen back ever so slightly going through Stavolo there, and he's built close again through Blanchimont because he's got the faster car in a straight line up towards the bus stop again. Let's see if he can close under braking. He does close under braking, but the drive that Hutu has in slow speed corners is very, very strong. And it's just a question of can Louis match it, and he has that time by. The gap's going to be so small. It's bang on half a second, pretty much matching times there as well, 45.5 each. And it's the case now, can Louis get a good drive out here? He has got a good drive, and this might be a chance again through Eau Rouge.
Yeah, and I tell you what, last time by, he did get a little bit of a wiggle out of Lassource. This time he doesn't. Let's see what happens when they come up the hill with 5 laps of this race to go. Now, Hutu, I think, is going to try and do something a little bit different each and every time. You see, this time, actually more of a gradual move to the left-hand side of the racetrack. 195 miles an hour, though, for Hugo Louise down into Lacombe. If he was that 10th closer that he was last time by, they would have been side by side into that corner.
He would have, yeah. That was getting very, very close for Hutu there. He pulled to the right straight away off the top of Radion, and then pulled it back to the left. That's not quite weaving yet, but he's going to have to go careful, because that will get looked at, I'm sure, because there's a fine line, and at the moment he's on that fine line, but he's just on the right side of it.
I tell you what, I really not want to be the iRacing stewards come the end of this race. It's been good, clean driving, let's say, though, throughout all of the 35 drivers that made the trip to circuit the Spa-Francorchamps, and phenomenal driving by all of them. Even when there's been incidents, people have been cautious as much as possible. Of course, we saw them lay down at the bus stop about 5-6 laps ago, but there's nothing anyone can really do with that. Even at the start of the race, you have to say, Nick, that all those drivers avoided that spinning car down at Lacuma on lap 1 with phenomenal position, and they thought, okay, get through this, then we'll carry on racing.
Yeah, first race of the year, and the fact that there wasn't a massive incident, a bigger incident than what there actually was, is actually very impressive. As Luis has closed up once again through bus stop, that was a lovely drive he got out of there as well. He has closed more. It's just over 4/10, and if he gets this right, this will be the run. Oh, he's a little bit wide. It's Hoots on the entry to last source there as well. He got the exit, but he was a little bit wider than he would have liked to be over the apex.
Yeah, so a little bit of time, I think, they lost net to Hugo Luis that time. Let's see what will happen as they come up the hill, because it is a lot closer than it was the last time by. 4 laps in this race going. I tell you what, it's starting to look a little bit like the 2000 Belgium Grand Prix with Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher. Not quite close enough, but I think there is some lap traffic that I just saw in the distance ahead of them. That lap traffic could be the difference maker, just like in 2000.
And Hutu arguably just broke that rule of weaving because he went right, left, right, but he held the middle of the track rather than the very extreme right. He's got to go careful now because Louis is on him, and this is a very, very fine balance out now for Gregor Hutu.
Yeah, and I say, with less than 4 laps of this race to go, we've technically now got just under 15 miles of racing to go here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. But what a race it has been. To give you a run through of your full top 10 very quickly, it is Hutu leading by less than half a second over Hugo Luis. Enzo Benito is in 3rd, Arnie Picard in 4th, Jake Sturgis in 5th, Martin Patella 6th, Isaac Price 7th, Martin Conke 8th, Tommy Nielsen 9th, and then you, Abe, rounds out your top 10. Your retirees are Alexei Usia-Kola, Stephen Michaels, Yuran Arumi, Jorn Jens, and Jason Lovett. Simon Cantell is also out of the race. He's the last driver in the 29th position. One driver scored 1 lap down, and that is Michelle Mancusi in that number 42 car right now. But
Luis has closed up so much on the entry of bus stop. Sorry, well, he closed to the absolute extreme there. It's now 3/10. Again, he just needs this run. A little bit wide on the apex again for Gregor Hutu. It's all about the exit. They've both got a good exit. This might be the one here, Will.
This is it. Down the hill they come. This is going to be potentially that move for the race victory. Here they come, up the hill. A good run by Hugo Luis. He's never been this close. Will they be side by side coming into the corner? The answer is going to be Hugo Luis going to go to the outside. The battle for the race lead. Who will get it done? The answer is going to be Hutu hangs on for another lap.
That was incredible. Louis had so much faith. He didn't even get into the toe. He just stayed left. He stayed left and was going to try and go around the outside of him. But Gregor Hutu had plenty of faith under braking. But Hugo Luis, that was superb to have that much faith. And that's how slippy that car is at the moment. He'll get another go. He will get another go. But he's got to not do what Raikkonen did last year. And he's got to make that move decisive. He's got to be decisive.
He has got to be decisive. To give you a bit of an update as well, we have got a battle going on between Mo Garfido and Ilka Hapana. They are separated by about 7/10 of a second on the racetrack as Mo Garfido tries to recover his race. And let's be honest, he has rebounded quite a lot. He is scored in the 13th position right now. Ilka Hapana is about 6/10 of a second behind him. But also, Alex Simpson has fallen down the order just a little bit, running in that 12th position. He qualified 8th, so it's a net loss of 4 positions for him. He won't be that happy with that in that Apex Racing UK car, but those drivers are separated by about a second each. Alex Simpson to Mo Garfido to Ilka Hapana. Back to the race lead. It is Gregor Hutu versus Hugo Luis. We'll probably stay with this for the majority of the rest of the race, but there is 2 lap cars ahead of them. The gap is back up to 4/10 of a second. You've got Alexia Lona and Yorni Tamada. They could be difference makers in this race because, yes, there are blue flags, but also there's the potential for a draft if it's at the exact right part of the racetrack.
He's very close again. Hugo Luis is so close to him again. They've both got wheel spin, and that's a cleaner line there for Hugo Luis as well. Can he get the job done this time? He'll go back to the left side. He does go left, and he's going to hold it right. Oh, he's weaved across back to the right side. That was cheeky from Gregor Hutu. Luis to the outside. Can he brake later? No, he can't. And it's still Gregor Hutu that leads the way.
Wow, and I tell you what, that was a bit of a move there by Gregor Hooter. He carries on, but I tell you what, I have never seen these two drivers battle as closely as I've seen them do it today. So often, it's a 3ID Motorsports race, or it's a red line race, or, you know, they use strategy. I remember at VAR last year, it came really down to strategy. You don't see these two drivers going wheel to wheel like we are seeing in this race today, and I have to say, this is potentially some of the best racing for the league that I have seen in the WCS in a number of years, but there will be 2 laps to go, and I tell you what, anything can still happen in these next 2 laps between Gregor Hooter and Hugo Louise. And I tell you what though, both times that they've been side by side into the corners, Louise is that one driver who's not been able to make it work on the outside line. Hooter's been that one driver who's been able to hold it on the inside.
This is the closest Luis has been actually going through Blanchimont as well. I don't think he'll make any sort of move on the bus stop. He'll try and get the drive that he has done the last 3 times out of last source. It's all about last source, and if he can get the drive out there. Bumps the inside curb of the bus stop, needs a clean exit. Oversteer an exit for Hooter as well.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Louise did lose a little bit there at the bus stop chicane, and the gap is back up to 6 tenths of a second on the racetrack now. For Louise, he just can't get aggressive.
Oh, he made that mistake early. He braked too late, and he's lost a draft.
He has, yeah, and that is going to be a key difference maker now. It's just Hooter. Can he do 2 hot laps? And we, of course, in the side-by-side box there, you see a pass being made on the racetrack as well. And, you know, some great racing still going on the racetrack. Side-by-side racing all the way to the very end of this race. But it was down really at the bus stop chicane where you could possibly say that Hugo Louise lost this race because he was a little bit too aggressive like last time. And he is now running every single curb possible.
Look how much is closed on him.
Yeah. Every single curb he is abusing right now with less than 2 laps to go in this race. In fact, we've got a lap and a half to go of this race. And I think Hugo now is going to really push because he knows he's got to get that gap down to about 3 tenths per second at the start of the lap. You can't leave it to the end. You've got to get it done at the start of the lap.
Yeah, he made a slight mistake through Pouon there as well. He was too wide on entry and missed the apex. He didn't take the ideal line. He's good through this section of Stabilo, though. It's a question of how much he can close actually now with the slippier car. Wow, that was fast through there for Hugo Louise.
Indeed, but still, Hooter is keeping him at bay. And I think that gap is as big as it's been in the last 5-6 laps. And for Hooter, he is now less than 5 miles away from claiming victory in the first round of the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here on iRacing Live and PSRTV. Here they come. 1 more lap of this race to go. And I don't think that Louise is close enough. I think that this is potentially now Hooter's race because Louise is nowhere near close enough there out of our source.
It's closer than he was last time, but it's still not quite enough. It's close. It's close, but it's not enough.
It is close, but it is nowhere near enough. Unless Hooter makes a mistake, I think now Louise has got to go, and I'm going to call it desperation strategy. He's got to find a way of getting closer, potentially make the pass down into the bus stop. I don't think lap traffic is going to be an issue. Hooter is still running a defensive line. There won't be any issues there, but they come down into Lacoon for the final time of this race. And I tell you what, regardless of the outcome, what a battle this has been between 2 of the best sim racers in the world.
Absolutely, what a second half of this race it has been between Hugo Louise and Gregor Hooter. We can't count out the fact that Enzo Benito is only 4.8 back, and Oli Pacala, what a drive he has had, 7.4 back of the race lead. A beautiful drive there. Jake Sturgios doing a solid job with only 11 seconds back, and these top 5 drivers have really thrown down the gauntlet. And you've got to say Benito and Pacala, the particular standouts, and Sturgios right on the edge as well. Okay,
here they come down into Stabilo for the final time. There's now just 1 big braking zone left for your 3-time WCS champion, Gregor Hooter, in that #1 Team Redline machine. At the start of this race, Gregor Hooter pulled out a huge lead, but he was on a different strategy. He pitted a lot earlier than Enzo Benito and Hugo Louise. They came out of pit road almost side by side, but Hooter comes into the bus stop for the final time. He will come out of the bus stop and he will take victory in the first round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, but by only half a second over Hugo Louise. Enzo Benito will come home in the 3rd spot there in the 2nd Team Redline car. Oli Pacala in the 4th position, and then Jake Sturgios is about to come down now and claim P5. What a race! we have just witnessed.
That was absolutely phenomenal driving from everyone there. And Enzo Benito, that's a fantastic podium to get. Ollie Pacala, you've got to say that was one of the best drives ever from Ollie Pacala. And to be 7.3 seconds off the race lead, phenomenal. Jake Sturgis, wonderful job as well. Piatella, after having his moments gone backwards, he stayed in 6th with Price in 7th. With Kroenke in 8th. Tommy Nilsson was 9th. And wow, what a drive from Arbe, 10th place. Superb effort.
Ilka Hapala just trying to make a last-minute pass there over Mo Garfido, wasn't able to get the job done. 11th place was Andre Borcher, 12th Alex Simpson, 13th is Mo Garfido, 14th Ilka Hapala, 15th David Corpse. Just a phenomenal drive. And you actually look at the attrition as well. Out of the 35 drivers that's entered this race, we only have 6 retirees from this event at one of the hardest tracks in the world.
Absolutely, that was magnificent racing all the way through.
Friscops, he was having a battle with Lassie Bryn Hansen right at the end there. It does look as though Bryn Hansen was just able to get the job done over Friscops, but they're still battling in those last couple of laps, and they're even outside the top 20, Nick. They're still battling right to the wire because they know that if you're not battling for race wins, you've got to keep yourself in those top 25 in points, and every point counts in this series.
Absolutely, and to go that close throughout the field as well with some of those battles that were happening is phenomenal, really, and testament to these drivers in the way they have approached the 2014 season.
So this has just been amazing. I have to say, potentially one of the best races I have called in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Your results are as follows. Gregor Hutu taking victory by Hugo Louise by just 5.5 tenths of a second. And Enzo Benito, 3rd place, 4.9 seconds behind your race leader. Ollie Pacala, what a drive by him in 4th. Just 7 seconds back from 3-time world champion and countryman Gregor Hutu in his first WCS visit. Jake Sturgis in 5th position. Martin Patella 6th. Isaac Price in 7th. Martin Kroenke 8th. Tommy Nilsson 9th. And then Juhu Abe rounds out your top 10. Andre Borcher 11th, Alex Simpson 12th, Mo Garfido in 13th, Ilka Hapala 14th, David Corpse in the 15th position, then Timo Evenen, Fulvio Barazzini, Anton Hegelin, Matthias Egger, Paul Ilmbrink round out your top 20. Rest of the results coming up on your screen momentarily. We did have one did not start in this race, and that was the number 43 car of Kazuki Omishima, and unfortunately his first visit to the WCS, he didn't even make it to the grid, so disappointing for him. But out from Hutu earned that victory today.
He did. He showed what he is made of and what he can do. Phenomenal defensive driving, a little bit questionable at times, but he got the job done. And it was just unfortunate. It probably didn't last longer because if it wasn't for the slowdown for Hugo Louis, it would have gone on even longer that battle.
I tell you what, we very easily have just done another 22 laps of that, and it would have been just absolutely phenomenal to drive. But I'm going to ask you now, who's your driver of the race? Because I think you've got at least 4 or 5 candidates to drive the race today.
Most definitely, you've got to say it's got to be either Hugo Liu or Gregor Hutu. But for me personally, I'm saying Pacala. That's phenomenal what Pacala's done there, and Benito the same thing as well. But I think Pacala, just for the overtakes with it, he threw in with it. I'm saying Pacala.
I'm going to agree with you because, of course, Pacala is leading the rookie field in this race. And to talk about the rookies, Ollie Pacala in the 4th position. You've got Isaac Price in 7th, Tommy Nilsson in 9th, Juhu Abe in the 10th position. Of course, we saw Juhu a couple of times last season, but he was racing himself up, but he wasn't a full-time WCS driver. Alex Simpson in the 12th position as well. Just phenomenal drives for somebody. And even towards the rear of the field, Lassie Bryn Hansen, Robin Friscops had some great battles. Jan Nizelowski brought that car home as well. But yeah, my driver of the race as well, I'm going to have to say, is going to have to go to Ollie Pacala in that number 27 car because he's just been absolutely phenomenal. We are going to talk to a couple of drivers in just a moment. We've got Hugo Louise and also Jake Sturgis on standby. We'll talk to them in just a moment's time. But I think for Hugo Louise, there's 2 points in this race where he really lost it. First one was down into, of course, that 4 wheels off the track at Rodillion. And then that second one, the bus stop chicane into the... I'm also thinking that might just upset the balance of that race car because he wasn't able to close up those last few laps back to Hutu.
It was close. If he hadn't done that, the battle would have gone on longer, and I think he would have had more than those 2 sort of half attempts, and I think it would have been more. It would have been more to it, but it just wasn't quite enough.
So we are going to talk to a couple of drivers literally in just one moment's time. But overall, what an absolute battle we've seen between them. I know we've got Hugo Louise on standby. We've also got Isaac Price, a number of the rookie drivers as well, coming to say hello to us. And I'm just thinking, we've still got 15 rounds of this championship to go. The next one is going to be in 2 weeks' time, and that will be the second round of the championship. 71 laps around the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment's time. The guy who came home P2 in this race, Hugo Louise. I don't think I've ever seen you have that close a battle with Gregor Hutu in your 5 years running in WCS.
Hello. Yeah, it was a great race. I'm very proud of first of all of finishing the race, because first race of the season is always tough. You never know what times the others are doing, so you're always in the dark.
Your time's in the dark, and you're right as well. Coming into a new season, anything can happen. And of course, we saw that. I think the big one today was his strategy. When Hutu pulled out that 10-second gap, were you worried, or did you know that you were on a different strategy and that the race would likely come back to you?
Well, when I saw that Gregor was so fast, I tried to keep focus and try to do my best, because the chance of him being on a different strategy than being so faster than his teammate was way bigger than. I was hoping him to be pitting before me, so I could try to try a leapfrog or something. And so I think he stopped in the middle of the race, so I could try to do some fast laps and try to leapfrog him. But it wasn't good enough to try that, since he came in front of me. And a lap or two after my pit stop, I had a slow down penalty on Rouge for pushing too much, and also because of the DTR, car was a bit understeery. But yeah, I tried to do my best and try to get the lead, but the fight was pretty good. Gregor was defending the lead very well, so yeah, very good result for today.
Good result, but those two key moments in the race in that second half for me came, of course, the one working for Air Rouge when he got all four wheels, had to take the slow down penalty, and then the one with just a couple of laps to go down at the bus stop chicane. Had you not made that one down at Air Rouge, do you think that you could have got victory, or do you think it would have been the same outcome?
For sure, could have more chance to try to get the race lead. When I had the slow down penalty, I just thought, well, I think I pushed too much, so but not that bad, because I could be off the DTR, so I could push a little more and try to get him back. But for sure, if I didn't have that penalty, for sure I would have more chances. But the race was like that, and we can't change anything.
Well, congratulations, P2. You can't, after that race, I tell you what, P2, you still can't complain too much. But also, you know, what a great drive as well. And of course, next time out, we're going to your home track, Interlagos, for the first time this season. And it's a track that I know that you've always enjoyed racing at. You looking forward to that?
Yeah, last race we had in Interlagos, I was looking forward to the win. Unfortunately, I had an accident with Atse. But I'm very sure to, well, first of all, I want to have fun. Then we can see if we can get such a good or better result. It was a very, I am very happy to start the season like that.
Well, well done. P2 there for Hugo Louise in this race. And next up, we'll talk to Ollie Picala in just a moment's time. But Nick, you say Ollie Picala, really our driver of the race. Phenomenal drive. Take it away with him.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, Ollie Picala was driver of the race. I mean, I know we had those guys up front, which were absolutely phenomenal battling, and they really did a fantastic job. But Ollie is now with us in the booth, and Ollie Picala, that was a phenomenal drive from you. You must be thrilled with your result there.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was pretty good pace for me in the race, and only thing what I'm sad about is that I did 44.582 in qualifying, but I hit the wall and got 0x in the first qualifying lap, so I would have been pole and could fight for the win. But yeah, I love the race here, and it's good to be first season in the WCS whole season. So I enjoyed a lot. Very fun to race.
It was fantastic to watch you, and I tell you what, some of those moves that you pulled along the Camel Straight on the outside of Lecombe, talk us through some of them, because you did them with so much confidence and belief that the inside driver wouldn't make any moves as well, and you did it a couple of times, and they were really fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. They were pretty basic moves. We practiced a little overtaking this week to the Camel Straight and to the Les Combes, and yeah, it's easier to go to the outside to overtake. Few times guy in the inside took so late break. Was it Tommy or who ran out and would have wrecked me, so I lifted off. But yeah, basically just hold your line and give just enough space for other guys to go in the inside, and they need to lift, and I can go on the throttle all the time. So it's pretty good overtaking place for me. I like it.
And how about going forwards now after this first round, which was phenomenal for you? What are your season ambitions now? What's your aim for the season?
I've set my aim like a few months ago when we were in the Pro Series, that in the first WCS season I will aim for the podium in the whole season, and maybe in the 2015 win the World Championship. But I think now it's not even impossible to win the championship this year, so I'm looking forward to the next few races. It will show us where we are going to with the championship.
Well, you certainly were not far off today, and to be only a mere seconds behind the race leader as well, and even less seconds behind getting a potential podium, I think you're in for a very promising and a great potential for the season. And I think, Will, going forwards, this is a guy we've got to watch out for.
Yeah, and we just had our statistician Chuck Johnson give us a stat. 2/1000ths of a second slower was his fastest lap of the race compared to Gregor Hutu. Phenomenal stuff there. So yeah, well done, Ollie Picala, in that Glacier Racing number 27 machine. Next up, we are going to talk to Jake Sturgios in the number 4 car. Jake, back to form at Spa. Top 5 finish. Not fully the race that you wanted, but still a top 5 is a good way of starting off yet another season in WCS competition.
Yeah, definitely. This is by far my best first round of the season. Last year, got 9th at Spa after a really intense battle with Pablo Lopez. And the year before that, I hit the wall. So this is a much better start for the season, and it's very promising. My pace is a lot better this season, it seems. I've never finished that close to Gregor before, so we'll just keep working on the setup. Hopefully we'll get a little closer. I really want to thank V-Racing and Simroom for the support on NX Racing. Also, congrats to Isaac Price for 7th place on his first start.
Yeah, we'll talk to Isaac in just a moment because he had a phenomenal drive as well. But your race itself, you started today in 5th position, you ended in 5th position, but there was a lot more to the race than that as far as you would go. At some point, you were running by yourself, and other times, it was pretty close to traffic. And I think you had that great battle with Picardo at one point, with Patelo at one point over the course of the race. And the race seemed to pull away from you a bit and then come back. And I mean, how difficult is it to survive 44 laps of Spa when the car changes so much over the course of a fuel run, where the tyres and the grip and the fuel and the lap times completely change from one lap to the next?
Oh, it's very difficult. You got to think about every corner. You got to downshift, right? If you downshift too soon, you might spin out. If you give a little bit too much throttle, you'll spin out in like half the turns. And the low-speed turns are real tough using first gear. So you're battling the car just as much as you're battling all the other drivers every lap. That first lap was pretty crazy there. I probably could have took him 3 wide, but I definitely wouldn't have finished the race if I did that. So I kept it safe, backed off. Fortunately, I had a teammate there behind me, Isaac. He gave room, and I think Alexi braked a little too late and spun. Fortunately, didn't really take Isaac or me with him, but that was an intense first lap, and I could tell Ollie was fast. I saw him catching Isaac. Isaac let him go. And then we pitted all together. And I didn't take tires, so I was pretty quick the first lap, but after that, I didn't really have much grip in the low-speed corners, and I made a little mistake out of turn 1. I just let Ollie go. He was flying. And I noticed he was actually catching Gregor. I think he had the fastest lap, so you guys got to keep an eye on him this year.
He's close, 2/1000ths of a second slower than Hutu, but we were just saying phenomenal speed there by Picardo in that number 27 Glacier racing car. But a good job for yourself as well. I say after the ups and downs of last season, great to see you back on form in the WCS. And of course, next time out, we head over to Interlagos. So we'll talk to you in that for 2 weeks' time. But you looking forward to Interlagos?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a better track for me than Spa. I've been more competitive there. So if we can get a good solid setup worked on and get some good pace there, hopefully can get another top 5, maybe even a podium with some luck. But these guys are really fast this year, and that'll be tough.
Well done, P5 there for Jake Sturgios. I'm going to hand it back over to Nick Rowland as he gets ready to talk to Isaac Price. And again, Price has just had a phenomenal race as well. And that rookie class, Nick, coming home in the 7th position and within 20 seconds of the victory. So, you know, another rookie driver into the series. Phenomenal job by him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hopefully Isaac will join us momentarily, but fantastic for what he's done. Both those guys, in fact, and that team really starting to show what they're made of. And these guys are looking to push forwards in the championship. And what a way to start. You know, with Isaac finishing in 7th as well. And you know, it's
sorry about that. We just lost Nick. We will get him back in just one moment's time. But in the meanwhile, Isaac Price, what a drive by you today. What a drive. P7 in your first WCS outing in the INX racing car. Finishing within 20 seconds of Gregor Hutu, who took the race victory here. And, you know, pretty much on pace with your teammate, Jake Sturgis, all day. You've got to be pleased with your first time out.
Yeah, I was really happy. I didn't really expect it to go quite that well, but yeah, I had pretty much the same pace as Jake. I was just like a little fraction slower, and it made that difference to whether I was, because I came out around the 3 ID cars that hadn't pitted yet, so I lost quite a bit of time with that. That was pretty much the only thing that went wrong from my race.
Yeah, Isaac, it was a fantastic race from yourself. There was a lot of battling going on throughout the field, but I mean, in terms of how you performed today and your teammate, how are you feeling like sort of going forwards now? It's a really promising start for you guys.
Yeah, I felt like during Pro Series it was kind of weird how we were so far off the fastest guys out there, and it was kind of good to see that now that we've got the whole team working together, we're not quite as far off, and it was quite surprising as well to see how competitive the guys that were at the top of Pro Series were compared to like Gregor and Hugo. I mean, Ollie probably had the best race pace out there today if he just didn't get the quali lap together, so it should be a really exciting season.
Certainly did have a great pace all throughout the race, and some of the overtakes were pretty sensational as well. In terms of your own personal goals, how do you see your season playing out for you? Is this the sort of area you want to be in throughout the season?
Well, yeah, that's the goal. I think really I'm just trying to sort of stay near where Jake is every race, because I mean he's got experience and he's finished sort of best of the rest outside Free ID and Redline the last 2 years. So if I can just sort of stay near him and match him, then I'm going to be doing well every week. So that's the goal.
It's a great goal to have, and massive well done today, and look forward to seeing you going forwards as well.
Thanks.
And finally, we're going to talk to the team principal for Team Redline. You must be one very happy bunny, Dom, getting Gregor Hutu winning first time out, Enzo Benito P3. I mean, you didn't even have Atsi running, and you still get 2 drivers on the podium.
I'm really stoked for a few things, really. I guess Gregor taking his first win at Spa. Would you believe that in World Championship? Enzo, his first podium in WCS, absolutely fantastic. And finally, the show this time was absolutely fantastic. Hugo, great champion. Gregor, great champion. And that battle at the end, you know, it had me on the edge of my seat.
it had us on the edge of our seats. In fact, as I think I was saying, this has possibly been my most fun call I've ever had of WCS competition, just because of those battles in between those two drivers. Now, of course, the day wasn't completely successful for you because Ben Cornett had some issues in qualifying.
So, Ben, in his typical Cavalier style, started practicing, I think, this morning. So, did his first laps. And you need a bit more prep usually. But, you know, he'll bounce back in his own way.
But again, I mean, you didn't have Atty here, still two drivers on the podium, and I think really Enzo Benito set the world on fire today with his raw speed. I mean, he did seem a bit nervous in the early going, but once he actually, you know, got into his rhythm, phenomenally quick, and in fact was matching Louise for pace in the early going. But I mean, I think really you have to say it shows the reason why he invited him to be a part of his stable.
Absolutely. I mean, Enzo was amazing in the GT cars, and if we could just nurture some of that talent towards the F1, we just knew that he's got the skills, he's young, and he's a really good team player. So fantastic for us.
And now we go to Interlagos in 2 weeks' time. And I mean, you've set the season up the way I think that you really want to. What's the goal from here on in? And of course, you'll likely have Atty back in 2 weeks' time. So you'll have a free drivers potentially going for the podium.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Gregor does really well at Interlagos. He always does since the old F1 2001 days. So I think he's going to be a good, strong challenger, but, you know, Hugo on the home track. And I cannot wait for the return of the Atty, because he really helps us out and is definitely a race winner. So, yeah. And maybe, you know, looking forward to maybe Enzo getting on the podium, and maybe one day Luke will return from his travels in wherever.
And it's always great to have Luke McLean in the series as well. But congratulations, Gregor Hutu. Final question. Where does this rank, do you think, in Gregor Hutu's all-time win list?
I think it's a big one. He was always really good at Spa. He's never won it. I think this is a really fun race for him. And, you know, this is what we want. We want fun races. So I think this will be definitely in his top 10, considering how many he's done. That's actually pretty impressive.
Well, cheers, Dom. We'll talk to you next time out. Dom Duhan, the team principal for Team Redline. Two drivers of his on the podium today, Gregor Hutu and Enzo Benito. Unfortunately, Atty Kirchhoff couldn't join us today. We talked about it earlier on the RaceBots WCS Spotlight podcast about how he is getting himself going in German Formula 3, doing a lot of work trying to secure some drives over there right now. So, Atty, I know you're probably watching. We'll hopefully see you in 2 weeks' time at Interlagos. But Nick, final thoughts on this. What a race.
It was unbelievable. If anyone has, or if there's anyone late joining, watch the entire race. There was battling throughout. It was fantastic to watch today, and to have that sort of racing straight away at the start of the season. Let's just hope that the teams and the drivers can keep up the entire year, because if we get that every single race, then my word, this will probably be one of the best championships on history.
Right, quickest lap of the race from our statistician, Chuck Johnson. Martin Kroenke, fastest lap, 1 minute 44.915. 4 lead changes, and the overall strength of field was 5,509. And that ends our coverage of the first round of the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. It was a race of two halves. The first half was all about Gregor Hutu building up that lead, but no one realised that he was going to come onto pit road so early, and that really opened this race wide open. Hugo Louise and Gregor Hutu battled tooth and nail for a good 10 laps towards the end of the race in some of the best racing that we've ever seen in the WCS. Now, the next round of the Peak Antifreeze NASCAR Series on iRacing will be at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on March 11th. Start time for that will be 9 p.m. Eastern. And also, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time for the second round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series at the famous Interlagos Autodromo Jose Carlos Paz. 71 laps of racing, and that will be at 10 Eastern, 2 p.m. GMT, here live on PSRTV and iRacing Live. This has been a PSRTV presentation of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. From Will Vincent, Nick Rowland, all the guys at the back over at PSRTV. We'll talk to you next time. What a race. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time.